So with Power BI is powerful because it allows you to import data from different places basically. So you can import data from Microsoft Excel. For those of us that are familiar with Microsoft Excel, you can import from SQL as well. Your SQL server, for those of us that uses SQL, you can import from your SQL server. You can import from your SharePoint to usually on your get data on the ribbons panel, like I said. You get data, so you can see the different places where you can get our data from. So you could be working with your Microsoft Excel workbook and you need to import something from your Excel into your Power BI. So usually done from this ribbons panel. Then it could be data flows, Dataverse, SQL server, like I said. It could be a CSV file. It could even be from the web or an old data feed. So we have several places, but the most common is usually Excel and then probably SQL. So most people working with Excel and okay, you finish working on Excel, or you've cleaned data, you've possibly done one or two things, and you want to be able to view it properly. Like I said, with Microsoft Excel, we can do most of these things, but Power BI is more or less like a standalone for visuals. It is more of a standalone for visualizing data. Each and every app or each and every software they have their usefulness. In the Python, we have SQL as well. Basically, SQL is for querying, where you have a large database, so you can use it to structure, to request for data. We have Python too. I'm sure most of us, or not many of us, are familiar with Python. So I would import from Excel. I'm going to get data. So if you check the slides I sent, you see something about how to get or how to import data. In a few minutes. So now when we get here, this Excel workbook of mine has only one sheet. So subsequently we'll see uh workbooks that have to do with one or two or even three, four more. This is just because it's an introduction class, so I'm just trying to like do the basics as much as possible. When we move to data modeling, then we'll be able to see relationship between different sheets. When we have one to many, we have one to one, many to many, many to one. So different kinds of relationships. So if you go through the slides, you see somewhere where they put something like transforming of data. So you can either choose to load our data or to transform our data. So basically, if you are given raw data and then you need to do some work on it before you are able to visualize, here I have 5 columns and a whole bunch of numbers. So I can decide, okay, I want to reduce it or I want to do some work on it. That is where transforming comes into play. So we usually do that with our Power Query Editor. So when we want to transform our data, sorry, give me a few minutes. Seems to be a bit slow. But when we want to transform our data, we usually do that with the Power Query Editor. So brings out the sheets I want to work with. Okay. So now we have the Power Query Editor. So we can do so many things with this before we finally load it onto our main Power BI page. So on the Power Query Editor, I can say, okay, rename, I want to rename the names of each column. So I would right click on my system, you right click, and you rename. Let's say I want to name this part. Uh, let's name this. Oh, okay, or let's use this. Okay, sorry. So let me make this like Monday. Let me make this. Let me make this Tuesday. Make this Wednesday. So you can change name of the column by right clicking. And then you just go to name this Thursday. And for the final column, let's name it Friday. Okay. So basically we've renamed our data. So now I have a lot of data here. I have about 90 something, if not more. And I only want to work with, let's say I want to work with just, okay, I have 100. And for better visualization, introduction class, let's say I want to work with just 5 columns. So this is part of the reasons why we need to transform our data before we finally load it into Power BI. So now, how would I do that? If I want to transform, I can easily come here on the Home tab, see where it's written Reduce Rows. So I hope you are following along, or you can try this as well on your systems while I'm doing this for better understanding. So I come to the Reduce rows, and let's say I want to remove the rows. So now it's asking, they want to remove the top rows, the bottom rows, alternate rows. Alternate rows in the sense of, okay, maybe I want to keep the first row, but like delete the second and then keep the third, things like that. Or remove duplicates. That's like, the meaning of duplicates. That's something that is repeated twice. For that's usually waste of space. It's also important that when we are working with data, we use the right data type. Could be Boolean, date and time, percentages, whole number, decimal. So it's very, very important that we know the type of data we are working with. Why? Because when we know the type of, when we use the right data type, we are saving space and we are also improving the efficiency and the data integrity as well. So let's say now I want to remove bottom rows. Okay, we have 100. Uh, let's say I want to remove bottom rows, and then he asks, okay, the number of rows. So it's 100, and let's say I want to remove 95 rows. So you can see it has reduced from a whopping 100 to 5. Sorry. Sorry, Pimero, do you have something to say?
No, no, that was a mistake. That was a mistake.
All right. So now, so we could also remove top rows like I showed. Sorry, we can remove bottom rows and we can remove top rows as well. Mm, sorry. So situations where we have to remove the top rows, for example, let's say uh, the initial date headers are in the second row, like this Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Let's say they were in the second row and then we have something else on top. So we could just remove the first row and it will be replaced with what's on the second row. That's the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So that's kind of situation where we have to reduce from the top. I reduce from the bottom because I don't want to work with so much. I just want to work with as few rows as possible. So I'm working with whole numbers. The data type I'm working with whole numbers. Sorry. Um, so on the Power Query editor, there's usually a panel on the side that shows the changes you made, kinds of keeps them. So on the right hand side, you see all the changes that are being made. Uh, so you can see remove bottom rows. So it showed that as well. The applied steps. It shows like it helps you keep track of what you are doing on the Power Query editor. So you know like the changes you've made is very important as well. Sorry. Uh, sorry. Sorry. So I want to take you through other things you can do on the Power Query editor. Actually, there are a lot of things you can do, but I just want to take you through one or two things you can do on the Power Query editor. So, like I said, you could remove columns. That's with this on the home page of the Power Query editor. You could remove rows, remove columns. Like I said, you could also rename. That's by right clicking. You can also change the data type. So let's say, for example, I spoke about the importance of knowing the data type you want to work with. So let's say, for example, now I didn't want to work with whole numbers, and I wanted to work with, let's say, percentages. So we come to the transform tab in the Power Query editor. Come to the transform tab, the data type. So you can see the different types of data types we have. We have decimal numbers, fixed decimal number. We have the whole number. We have percentage, date, time. Yeah. let's say I wanted to work with decimal numbers, for instance. Now, yeah, so replace. So we can see I've replaced from whole number to percentages. So oftentimes, we could find ourselves in organizations and we need to work with percentages instead of whole numbers. So you could easily change the data type of that particular column. You could even select all the columns. Just hold then your shift and your right arrow to select all the columns you need, and then make changes. But I'll actually be working with uh whole numbers. So I was just showing how to work with whole numbers. So that's how you change data types on the transform, change data types, come to the transform part. You can also add columns here. You can add columns. We have conditional columns. So just like how you have in Python, where they say, okay, if this particular column is equals to, let's say for example, let's say if Monday was equals to, let's say, a value like 70, then okay, what does it output? To output, you put it, and then so for every instance of when that equals 70, to create a new column. So that's an example of conditional columns. You can also duplicate your column. That is creating this one that I've selected, creating it a second time. So now let's say for example, uh my boss or something wants Monday and Tuesday like together. Let's say I want to merge columns. So how would I do that? Sorry. So we could easily come here. We are currently on Monday. As you can see, it's highlighted. So I press my shift and right arrow, and now I have two selected, two columns. And now I come to merge columns. So let's say you want to merge based on a comma. These are basically delimiters. Let's say want to combine. We have colon, comma. Let's say okay, you want to work with comma. Let's leave the new name as merged. So you can see that's created a new column. It's created a new column called merged. So basically, this has merged Monday and Tuesday together. So I'm just trying to take us through. There are so many functions on Power Query Editor. So I'm trying to take us through one or two. You still have other lecturers that would come and take you through the rest of it and go more in depth. Like I said, I'm just doing the basics, just introducing you to some of the features of Power BI. So we've seen how to merge, we've seen how to filter rows, we've seen how to rename columns, we've seen how to remove columns, we've seen how to merge queries. So we've also seen how to remove duplicates. So like I said, if you wanted to remove a duplicate, come here, you see where you remove duplicates. So now let's say this merged. You don't need it anymore. That's how to remove. So just as how I removed about 95 rows, you can also remove some certain columns. Let's say you want to work with Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday alone. You don't want to work with Friday. You could remove Friday as well. So these are some of the things we can do on our Power Query editor. So mind you, we are still transforming our data, and all that is done on the Power Query editor. Like I said, it helps us with basically transforming, cleaning our data, making sure that it's easier to work with. So also, if you go to the, so there's something called fill down and fill up. So let's say for instance, we had neighboring columns or neighboring rows that were empty and we need to fill it up. So fill down basically fill that particular row with the value underneath it, while fill up will fill with a value above it. That's what the fill up and fill down does. Uh, we could also replace values. Let's say, oh, I want to replace 11. I want to replace 1. And I want to replace it with, let's say, 7. Let's look for every instance where is 1 and it will replace with 7. Okay, sorry, I was on this. So let me come here. So, for example, we have 1 here. So, so we can see replace to 7. That's, let's say we have an error and we want to replace, instead of having to do the struggles of going around, we can just replace from there. Mm, so basically, there are a lot of features, like I said, on Power BI that we can work with. I already showed how to add columns. I showed the conditional column, that you can create a column based on a certain condition. I showed how to merge columns as well. Mm, sorry. So now, when we are done with all this, like when we are done in the Power Query editor, we've renamed, we've removed, we've done as many things as possible. So now our data looks more presentable. Sorry. So now our data looks more presentable. So now on the Power Query editor, there's something known as close and apply. So now once you close this Power Query editor and then enter the Power BI editor proper. Sorry. Okay, sorry. Someone raised their hand. Clean. Did you want to ask a question?
Yes, I sent my question on the message box.
Okay, sorry. Okay. So you asked in what scenario, in what condition will we be required to reduce our data? So oftentimes when we extract data from a source, like we said, uh you can extract data from different sources. Let's say you want to work on a project, you scrape data off a website. So sometimes to make your presentation more understandable or to make your presentation brief, you could group data or you could remove data so that your presentation is not jumbled up. So that's an example of a scenario when we can reduce our data. Do you get that? Or when there are too much null values, or when we are working on time data and it involves years like before the 1940s. So basically, like I showed you, when I showed you about duplicate data, so that's also an example of times when we can reduce our data. We could scrap data and uh, we'll have the same thing repeating, which is just going to cluster up our space, and then the visualization might be inaccurate because we have several duplicates. So you're not able to make informed decisions from it, because oftentimes you need our data to be as accurate as possible. So that could be an example of a time when it could also be on request. It could also be on request. Okay, let's say you're working in an organization and then this particular set of values aren't needed anymore. Let's say, for example, you have the data of a certain student, and okay, in the school he has left the school now. So this is an example of times when you would now remove the data, as you can't visualize the data of the person no longer in school. So that's an example of times when we can reduce our data. So also we reduce our data because it's time consuming and it's expensive to maintain on the organization's server. Efficient. That let's say, for example, you're working with percentages instead of whole numbers. That's going to just take up space. So we need to know the right data type to use. So when when like I said, it could be on request. Let's say you need to work with data from a particular year. Let's say you're researching best movies since, let's say, the 2000, and then the data you have select movies from, let's say when you scrape data and then you have data from 1940 or 1960 down to 2022. So this data from 1940 to 2000, obviously we won't be able to work with such data to just consume our space. So we need to remove it so that we can focus on data from the 2000s to 2000s and like currently the year we are at. So these are examples of times when we need to reduce our data to avoid taking up space, and usually when they aren't needed for some particular visualizations, because it won't make any sense. Let's say you're in an organization and then you need to make a presentation on these movies, and then you start presenting movies that have gone far back, movies like the Titanic. Some movies that okay we don't need, we need like current movies. So I don't know, did that answer your question?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay. So having done all that, so I've been able to reduce our data on the Power Query editor, been able to rename as well. So let's say I'll just briefly run you through an example of like a visualization. Your other lecturers or your other teachers would run through it more in depth. So usually on your data panel, the sheet that I just finished working on, that's the sheet I just finished renaming, is usually here. So you'd see new measure, new column, new quick measure. These are basically things you could decide to rename. I can decide to rename the sheets I just finished working on. I can decide to rename it something else, just like I renamed it that time. But let's leave it at that. So now I've selected the sheets, and we have Friday, Monday, Thursday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So by default, we can see this sign right here. Usually stands for sum. So let's say I pick this. Let's say I pick this. Let's say I pick this as well. This. So you can see it. You can see it's coming up here. You could try it on your system as well. I just want to like do a very quick
No,
visualization. So we can expand this so it's more visible. Mm, okay, so you have something like this. So now in the sheet we worked with, we could say, okay, we want to show some of, let's say, the amount of money that was made on a particular day. Let's say those values were naira or dollar made, and now you want to compare. So we have, sorry, let me make this more. Let me make this more presentable. Okay. So you see our legend. So our legend usually provides more information. So if I was to put off this legend, you see uh this. So it's not easy to understand. So legends are also very important because they provide information on the data. So it's basically showing that, okay, this blue stands for Friday right here, this dark blue, like that. So now this is a very typical example of what you could do with Power BI, or what you can do with Power BI. So now let's say we are calculating the sum of money made in a particular day. Usually when we visualize it this way, even a layman can see and understand that, oh, okay, the highest is this. So we know that the highest amount of money was made on Thursday, and then the next amount of money was made on Monday, they made on Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday. But at the same time, someone might look at this and not understand. So that's why in Power BI we usually have to create reports and more effective dashboards. The next person would the next person would the next teacher in the coming sessions would explain it better to you, so you know how to create your reports in such a way that the person or the people reading would understand, or the person looking at your work will understand what you are doing. So this is just like a brief introduction of what Power BI can do. Is a visualization tool, like I said. Can go through the slides I sent to help you as well.
okay.
So like I said, I put on this data label from the visualizations panel. So like I said, we have several panels: the data panel, visualization panel, filter panel. Sorry. Okay. So did someone raise a hand again?
Yes, I'm still the one. I was trying to
Okay.
process the explanation you gave for my first question, that we
Okay.
could, maybe in a scenario where we have to, maybe we've done web scraping using Python,
Mm-hmm.
and then we
Yeah.
need to connect to Power BI. Then I got thinking, I don't know how you the connection is done. Can you kindly show a way, like say for instance, is there a function here on this Power BI that connects Python with Power BI, sir?
Yes, yes, of course, there is that. Like I mentioned, that's more advanced actually. Next lecture, I will take that. To be taught later. Sorry. So let's say, like I explained, when we are getting data, we could get data from multiple sources. So today I just worked with Excel. You can see they are all different data sources. So basically, uh, Python is also there, of course, because Python is a tool. Like I showed here, web, get from a web page, from a data feed, from a blank query. So in your ribbons panel, you can see that there are so many places where we can get data from. These are the common data sources. There are more data sources that we can get from. So I just got from the basic Excel, but we can get from Power BI, semantic models, data flows, databases. So subsequently, the next person would come and he would show you how you can get data from Python. Of course, when we do web scraping with Python, so you can do that. Sorry, does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you, sir.
Okay. So like I said today, I worked with Excel. I worked with Excel just
Okay.
Think, yeah.
Do you have any class?
Yes.
I still have any class.
No.
Yeah. Hey, your class. Sorry. Anyway.
Sorry about that. I got cut off the first time. Uh, Waiting for more people to join. So mm, we're about 9, 10. So you can open the slides that I sent to the group. Uh, we're pretty much almost done with the introduction. We've been able to look at most things on Power BI.
Mm.
We're able to look at the different panes we have: the visualization pane, filter pane, data pane. Be able to look at the status as well, the different views. So this whole place where the work was done on my screen is known as the canvas area. So that is where the bulk of the work is done. This place that displays the sum of Monday, Thursday, the whole diagram is known as the canvas area. So in subsequent classes, you'll be learning how to turn this into meaningful reports and dashboard.
Mm.
So, and also here I worked with one page. So as I can see, page one of one. In subsequent classes, you see where you have to connect or model data. That is, you'd have to work with one or two or three or four um, pages, and then from there be able to like establish a relationship. That's basically data modeling. Like I said, we have many to many, we have one to many, we have one to one, we have many to one. So we have different kinds of relationships that exist between the data. So like I said, for the lady that asked, we have different data sources where we can get the data, the Excel workbook, data flow, database, SQL. So we can just familiarize ourselves with some of these. Mm. So I've shown us how to transform data as well.
Mm.
So basically, it's cleaning data. Those are columns you don't need. For example, I had over 100. Part of the main reasons why I even reduced from 100 to 5 was because I wanted to sort of illustrate this, and I didn't want it to be cramped up for easier understanding. So I reduced about 95 rows so that we can have something more, that can represent on a single dashboard. So with this, you can easily see and explain. In organizations, you'll be required to present your work, and with Power BI, people will be able to understand what you've done. Sorry. So with Power BI, people will be able to understand all that you've done. So if you want to work with data directly, when you get your data from here, like I said, then I went to Excel because I was working with Excel. When you get your data, you might not need to transform it. It's
Oh,
possible that it
shit.
has already been transformed and you just want to work directly. So if you want to do that, you just go ahead and load your data. When I connected from here, and I connected from here. Next. So if I'd open this and I won't open it now, so it won't interfere. But like earlier, when I wanted to work with the data, I transformed it first. But if it doesn't require transforming, you can load it directly. So you don't need to close or apply. So these things I've explained, they are the basic building blocks of Power BI. So this is a visualization right here on your board. So the building blocks of Power BI is basically the visualizations, then the data sets. That's the data I worked with on Excel, the rows and the columns, the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And then you have your reports, dashboards, and tiles. So like a single data in your reports or your dashboard is what is known as tiles. Tiles. So like individually, they make up the dashboard or the report. Usually, a dashboard is just one page, could be like just one page like this, explaining your data for better visualization. And then your report is usually more detailed. So, like I said, in subsequent classes, you see what how to create effective dashboards. So dashboards, they usually provide real time or near real-time overview of quick metrics and performance indicators. So it's just designed for quick monitoring and decision making. And they are usually interactive, allowing users to filter data and view different time frames or segments. So reports are more static. So for reports, when you have a report, it provides a more detailed analysis of the data and is often focused on a specific time period or topic. So with report, you have an in-depth analysis and record keeping. So every single thing you do with that data, everything you visualize, the when you are doing this in your reports, you'll be able to analyze it better for record keeping, and then the people you are explaining to will be able to understand the work you've done. And they're usually less interactive than dashboards because they're usually like the finished work. They are more structured and comprehensive, and they are more text heavy. They include detailed tables, charts. The layout is more structured and linear. So basically, dashboards are best for real-time monitoring and if you want to make quick decisions, while reports are ideal for detailed, comprehensive analysis and for record keeping over specific time frames. So those are the basic building blocks of Power BI. So I think I've explained um, the majority of things that has to do with an introduction to Power BI as a data visualization tool. So, does anybody have any question?
No, sir.
Sorry, did you hear me? I said, does anybody have any question?
No.
Okay. Uh, any other person? So, do you have any questions? Does anybody have any question? Okay.
I'll go ahead.
So, in the absence of questions, I guess we can call it a day
All right.
today. So from the slides I sent to you, the last slide, I sent an assignment there. So before our next class, we'll be having our next class on Saturday. So let us try as much as possible to um work with these things that you've learned today and try and import your own Excel file and then work on it. Just do some editing using the Power Query editor. Okay, sorry, Ido, raise the hand. Sorry, Ido, is Ido here? Oluwaseun.
Yes, yes. Good afternoon. Thank you very much. I'd like to comment on the assignment. I don't know if you can hear me.
Okay, I can hear you.
Yes, I don't know if you would share a sample data set, or probably I would want to get the data set ourselves. That's just what I want to ask.
Abi, how
Thank
we
you.
go submit itself?
Okay. Uh
Yo, big man
so I
to.
would I would send you a sample data set
All right.
that you can all work with and make uh edits to. So that shouldn't be a problem. I'll send you a data set that you would work with and then you just do some editing on it in the Power Query editor and you send it back. There will be a drive as well where you can like submit your assignments.
Okay.
So yeah, I would send you a file you can work on. So any other questions?
Sorry, sir. I didn't get you. Did you say our next class is Saturday?
Yes, yes, ma'am. On Saturday.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So any other questions? Okay. So in the absence of none, I think we can call this a day. Thank you very much for joining and attending this call. Uh, really appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. You're welcome. You're welcome.
Bye, nigga.